So now for our second keynote, we will welcome Julian again, co-founder of idOS, to discuss building the identity layer for web3. Oh.
Thank you. Hello again. I want to talk about identity today, but before I do that, I want to start with finance. What's wrong with finance, and why are we all here, and how can we fix that? I want to talk about how come it's 2024 and we still don't have a decentralized identity system. I want to introduce the idOS, and I've got a quick announcement at the end of my presentation. Let's start with what's wrong with finance. And I have a very personal story here. Not too personal, but this badass here, Heinz Nixdorf, was a German entrepreneur. And he was from the town where I'm from. It's called Paderborn. No one knows it. I actually met the US attaché to the Berlin embassy. I was telling him that, and he said, yeah, I know. He was a little bit older, but he was there because he was in tech before. And this guy single-handedly rivaled IBM in the 70s, 80s. And he founded his company when Fairchild Semiconductor started up. And he built that company. He did two things wrong, though. First of all, 2 years before I was born, he died. That wasn't great for the business. And also, he had a closed source operating system. So he built mainframes where the only apps you could install were self-built applications. So we're not even talking about open source or closed source. We're talking about you're just guarding your application layer, right? I think there are a couple of lessons here for us. You still see Nixdorf all over the place in the city because it has the worldwide biggest computer museum. But I would have favored having a real vibrant tech economy in Europe, which, well, it's there to an extent. Why am I bringing this up? It's because I believe that what we have been seeing with tech in the 90s and with computers in the 90s, we're seeing with finance right now. Because we are really looking at monolithic giants that are gardening access to their application with just self-made applications. So if you sign up to a bank, you cannot use any other application. You have to use what they present to you. So we are talking about not just open source, we're not talking about platforms, we're talking about completely closed. So that's not great. So what do we envision here with OpenFi? We envision that we have a modular system where you can just take whatever module and stack it up onto your platform. And you can just use it as a builder without the costs that are associated to it. And I think that this is huge. This is going to disrupt finance just like open systems disrupted computers, disrupted the internet again and again. And the reason why we might not be familiar with it anymore is because those guys just had to pivot hard or they are just not around anymore. And everyone's like, Nixdorf, what's that? And I think that this might be happening to some of the banks that are around today. With one problem though, or TradFi has one advantage. And we've seen that, you know, with what Jesper was telling us with the local maximum. There are some things that right now in TradFi work a lot better. Because if you want to onboard to OpenFi, you need to onboard to every single one of those modules. That really sucks, because that means doing KYC over and over and over again. We've invested so much into liquidity bridges that we completely forgot about the user bridges. We believe it's even going a little bit further, because just like identity has been one of the core use cases that were around when the Bitcoin paper was published as a way to decentralize data, finance and payments has always been the main use case. But we strongly believe that this is holding us back from going to a place where crypto rails are just so far and widespread that we really pivot into the mainstream applications to not just cater to the small pool of users that are technically savvy, that we are catering to today. So, let's go into identity. We have tried a lot, and we have tried really hard to change that. But it hasn't happened so far. And we had some amazing companies taking a shot at it, like Uport, like Spruce. And I believe that there are 3 reasons why traveling in Web3 kind of looks like traveling in Europe. Like I flew in from Berlin. I wasn't even, like, my identity card wasn't even checked. But back in the days, I would have probably needed different types of papers to cross through different kingdoms, because I cannot even take my identity right now from like one kingdom, or sorry, I meant ecosystem, to another. So this is not great. What are the reasons? The first reason, the pain point wasn't big enough. No one cared. We could just do whatever. We didn't need to care for the regulator. And I think that in the beginning that was good. And just like in the early internet days, this is something that you can do if you are just a bunch of nerds, you know? You don't need to have those rails, because people are there for different reasons. They are not there for the money. They are there to check out new infrastructure, new technologies. But as we grow, our pool of people that are participating here also grows, and they are not always the best people that then also join, right? Another thing was governance. We could do airdrops, we could do on-chain governance, and we tinkered around with that, and that was amazing. But it doesn't work anymore. AI has put a nail in the coffin of being able to do airdrops right. Governance is really riddled with tampering. We can feel that there is a, it's the pain point has just become too much. On the regulatory side, yes, the regulator is pushing for us to adopt some of the TradFi rails, but I believe that it's not just this push factor where they are telling us do this or go to jail, but there is a much more exciting chance here that we actually unlock this huge world of finance because we bring our tools to their world. The second reason is simple. Identity is just super complex. We're talking about people building avatars saying they are in identity. Some people do KYC. They also say they are in identity. And the whole stack needs to work for it to really be something that, you can actually use. This might be a little bit more, you might not agree with that, but we believe that we took a couple of wrong turns here. So let me dive in. At first, we built monolithic ID chains. It's kind of like we will have the identity chain and then everyone will come to us and then it's going to be amazing. Well, that never happened. We just had wastelands of identity chains that no one was using. Then we said, all right, soulbound tokens. Vitalik gave a talk, like, hey guys, do something. We need this. But the problem is here, it's kind of like the chicken and the nugget. You can never go from the nugget back to the chicken. So the attestation of a fact doesn't allow interoperability, and it's also not compliant. Same for identity wallets. If I have an identity wallet and I come to a decentralized application, that application cannot store that data or store that data again in their centralized databases. So it doesn't really help. Yeah, buying eyeballs, incentivizing users to come. Who of you is going to sell their identity for $2? I wouldn't. And then you can have an idea of the quality or the economic availability of the people that are joining those systems. So Akerlof says calls it a market of lemons, not that specifically, but this is the theory of the adverse selection effect that I think is in play here. So we said this isn't working out, we need to build something else, and that something else is chain agnostic. It uses verifiable credentials, also known as the real deal, the real data. It needs to be secured. People need to have access to it, but they also need to give access to others so that if the user is offline, the data is still there to be consumed. If the user says it's all okay. And we need to focus on data consumption. Having a lot of users doesn't matter. You need to build those use cases where people actually need this. And this is why we built the idOS. What is it? It is a decentralized storage and access management protocol. it's like your drive that you can use, where you have full control and you can give data access and you can revoke that data access. But as a dApp, you can go there and basically use it as your CRM. It is a network of nodes that has a proof of state consensus, so that if you tell the node to please delete your data, you don't need to beg. If that node doesn't execute that request, it doesn't have the same state, and it's going to be slashed, and it cannot connect to this network of nodes again. So you're out, and your tokens are gone. How does it work? A user, it's not animated, but a user here encrypts their own data, authenticates him or herself with the node to say, hey, this is me and I can prove it, and takes those data packages and puts that into a limited number of node system. So this node system is permissionless, but it is closed to 20 node providers, and they are executing the protocol. The user can then go and say, well, on blockchain 1, blockchain A, I want to give this dApp access. The dApp authenticates with their keys, and the user decrypts that file, encrypts it with a private public key of the recipients, and puts it back in. So whenever that dApp comes to the node at a future point, they can get access to that encrypted file, which is great because you are, if you break into the idOS, you don't get anything. You get a bunch of encrypted files that are user encrypted. So you have, if you have 1 million users, you have 1 million different keys to decrypt it. The best part is the interoperability, and this is an open call to all of you. If you're building an identity, now you can actually build on top of it. We do not need to improve our onboarding funnels again and again in isolation, but we can really all build on top of that to, for example, make analytics available, and suddenly you can use that not just in EVM, but also non-EVM chains. So it truly works cross-chain. I've got a small announcement to make. I told you that we are all about consumption. So we didn't want to just incentivize users, but we knew that we wanted to really throw the bad signal on the wall to say, guys, let's all start building on a joint stack. And I'm extremely excited to announce that we have formed the idOS consortium with folks like Circle, Ripple, Arbitrum, LF0, Gnosis, Radix, Near, and Etherlink joining that consortium. Not just as a building partner, but with very concrete use cases, some of which we will actually hear today. That is next to a funding round where those guys also chipped in, and we had the fortune of having Fabric Ventures, whipping everything in shape and helping us put that off so that we can actually go ahead and try to build an identity operating system that will help us connect and build the tools that we need to make OpenFi a reality. Thank you very much.